So all this is not about getting nervous, as I said in the beginning. Not the essays, not the exams, not anything. Approach it in a relaxed way, and relaxing means actually that give yourself the time to think about what is at stake. Give yourself the time and the space. This was actually another issue with more or less all the essays. And in a way it's fine, because I said there is a maximum of 3,500 words, I think, but there is no minimum. So many people submitted something like 1,500 words about this, between 1,500 and 2,000. Think about what you want to say about the topic. Now, in a way, it didn't play a role, but at the same time, I saw in many essays you could have done better if you would have used the space. If you would have used not 3,500 words, but if you would have written a little bit more. Because you have the time with the space to think more, to put things on paper or into bits and bytes in a way that allows you to develop what you are actually thinking. And it happens to me, it happens to many other people. I was recently talking to somebody else on the phone. She said, sometimes I don't really understand what you are saying. It's private conversation in emails or something. And I said, well, I don't know what this was about. It's too long ago, but maybe. And then she said, actually it happens to me as well, to her, that sometimes I write something and a week later I read it and I'm sitting there and I don't know exactly what it was about. Because we are writing in a specific context from or against a specific background, and then things seem to be clear. But we don't allow ourselves to develop things in a proper way that we know after a week what it was about, after a year what it was about, and that the other knows what it is about. This is something I mentioned as well in terms of lecturing. We only have this and that's time. You only have the 3 or 4 years to study. Meaning if you would have more time, if you would be able to take it more relaxed way, it would be much better. But okay, that's not the case. We have these conditions, we have these restrictions, and we have to live with it, but we still have to make the most out of it in terms of at least using these essays, using the exercises, to think about what it is in more concise terms. This will be the one of the challenges when you write the exams. You don't have much time, but you have a substantial amount of time. But you don't have much space. You're not asked to explore things extensively, but give a more or less short answer, which means come to terms. Say exactly what it is about, and that means sometimes to think, spend time on thinking, on reading the question, think what it is about and what do you have, what should you answer. Economics is the theoretical basis of control of economy. It's for me difficult. I could simply say wrong. This is wrong. As it is stated here, it is wrong. As simple as that. But then, as I said, I tried marking the essays, I tried to understand what do you want to say. But this is what you have to actually make sure about. What do you want to say? Possibly I was too generous. I understood it in a way that you say economics is the theory we use as basis to understand the economy, and then to use the knowledge to influence it, to control it. This is not said. The theory is never a basis of something. The reality is the basis. And then the theory can be used to develop a certain practice. But the theory is not controlling the practice. The theory gives us a guideline, hints how to control it, how to act. Theory doesn't control anything. With our thinking, with theories, we can try to get a guidance to our action. With the action, we control things to some extent, not completely. What is important here in general is, on the one hand, terminology, thinking about what you are saying, thinking about it exactly, which takes time. And it is as well about the issue of what is it actually? What is economics? What is economy? What is theory? And what is practice? You have 4 things there, at least. So in a way we say simply, okay, with theory we control. As I say, maybe that I was too generous in saying, okay, this is probably okay. The expression, the wording is wrong, but okay, let's ignore it. But this is as well something for you important to know exactly where are you standing. And as I said, there is a debate on this, theory and practice, basic foundation, economic foundation and superstructure. This is behind such simple formulations and misformulations. You remember Plato, the cage. That's here. That's exactly here. Their theory, if you want, was just what they saw at the other end, because they couldn't turn around. This was their world. This was their theory. They couldn't control anything. Just this tiny, tiny world, they got some tiny insight. So in this way, it is important to to be precise, to be concise, to understand what it means, and as well to give you the time. It's not about writing much. At the same time, it can help you, writing a little bit more, to be more precise, and then to say what you want to say. Explore it. Look at the reality. Look at what it is about. And then look as well at something where terms are commonly understood or come up from somewhere, and they seem to be common knowledge, but they are not. Be it they are not common knowledge at all, or they are common knowledge in one area, but not in the other. Scientific economics, I never came across it. Saw it in some essays as distinction. You have scientific economics and you have political economics. I don't know from where it comes. It may be that it comes from somewhere. I checked it on the internet as well. This is what I always try. Then I didn't find anything. I found, and this may then will be that it was a matter of translation, the science of economy, or economics as science. This is a different thing. So try, at least, to be precise, and try as well, and this was a serious issue in many essays, try to write an academic work. This was an essay meant to be academic work. Academic work is about controversy. It's about developing things. Now, to anybody who is here whose parents are journalists, I don't want to offend anybody. I know journalists, they are excellent. They are excellent academics. If they write a good article for a journal, they use this knowledge, but they are not writing an academic work. They are writing possibly a piece that is informed academically. But one aspect about academic work is to engage in controversies. And to engage in controversies in terms of looking at from different perspectives, looking at different positions, and trying to relate them. Sometimes you do this as well in journalist pieces, but it is a different story here. You have your references, you have your own position, but you make references to something and you kind of logically develop it. A certain methodology is used. It's not just taking one position and another and provoke the clash. It's good to do this sometimes. It's good as well if we have and when we have these clashes in academic debates. But we are still engaging in a different way with it, and we are systematically approaching it. We make clear what is our own position, meaning, we talked about it, looking at the values, looking at the aims, at the objectives. Why do we write this? To justify something, to get a stronger point, to get an argument for something. Or to ask what is actually the context possibly. In a certain context, something may be true. In another context, the same thing may not be true. I heard yesterday somebody saying trees are actually bad for the environment in terms of pollution in urban areas. They don't absorb the emission and clear the air, clean the air, but they would have an opposite effect, that actually they catch the emissions and keep it here. I always learned that it's different, but I would not say, well, just stop this rubbish. I would say if it's somebody just saying it, but he said there are, I read something about it in a journal, and it made sense. Okay, why not engage with it, in it? I wouldn't do it because it's not my area, but why not say, as biologist or whatsoever, as urban planner, I have to look into detail what are the different positions. Engage in controversies, and even if it's more or less an essay presenting the situation as it is, look at the different positions. If you look at China today, the economic development today, there are different positions on, are we in a crisis? Some people, important economists in China, some people of the party, of the government, say, yes, we are. We have to be very, very careful. Some people say, no, there is no crisis. It is a kind of controlled redefinition of what is going on, of redefining development. There is this controversy, and don't say, this is another one, don't say, as we all know. If we all know it, then we don't have to write about it. We have to write in academic essays about what we don't know, what we want to explore, where we have controversies. And we don't know. As I said in the beginning, there are many things I thought we all know. How to format a text, how to write an email. I heard the other day somebody said, I couldn't reply early because I didn't know how to send an email. Okay, we have to accept that there are always some people who don't know even the basics, but there are some things where we cannot simply say, as we all know. As we all know Keynes, as we all know Smith. We don't know. Some people know, some people don't. Some people interpret it in this way, some people in another way. Sometimes I say it in this way because I'm arguing now in favor of a more differentiated debate on Adam Smith. I say no, he was not simply rejecting any intervention by the state. There had been certain areas where he had been in favor of it. The invisible hand was not something, the main issue of him. it was a minor issue appearing once in his work, and this was actually not even on the internal market, it was on foreign exchange. On another occasion, I say simply, he is laissez-faire oriented, he doesn't want any intervention by the state, and that's it. We don't have to engage in all the details then. We have to decide what is important at which stage. Be sure that even if you present something that you have a clear hypothesis, that you have a clear thing that you want to make, that you wanted to clarify with what you are presenting. The main purpose of this paper is to analyze the development of flows of products and production and what can China learn from it. This is why I took this now, because it was one of the typical examples where you have a hypothesis formulated as hypothesis. What you basically say is China can learn something from the analysis of the development flows of products and production. Now, I don't remember exactly the essay, which one it was, but it was probably an essay on international trade, which means you basically say, looking at international trade and the flow of products and production, there is something that is important for China to learn from. Make it clear to yourself what you are doing. This is why I said multitasking is something we do. We don't mention it. And because we don't mention it, at some stage we get trapped. We can't avoid it. There's always somewhere a trap and we just run into it. But at least these exercises should be an opportunity to take the time to concentrate on something and to work on it. I could have done something very bold. I could have opened the files. There's always the file property. And the file property tells you the creation date of the file. And I bet many of these files had been created one day before. And this was not because you had been handwriting before, preparing this. It was not because you had been writing in another application and transferring. It was because you just didn't take the time, didn't take the opportunity. And I don't blame you for it. We are all the same, kind of. Many of us leave things to the last minute for different reasons. We don't have the time, we think we don't have the time, or we actually can work better under, now I have to get my ideas down. Sometimes actually, and we all have our own justification, sometimes I know I have to give a presentation in 6 months. And of course, I have other things to do, and I won't sit down and know now I have the abstract, or they gave me the title or something, talk about this and that. I won't sit down and start writing. But at the same time, I kind of ventilate this idea, and if I come across something, I think, right, this could be actually interesting as well for that. And I may make a note somewhere that I remember on a piece of paper. Those who have been in the office know my office and know that there are papers spread all over the place, and there is a certain system to it, but you make notes on your computer. We all have different ways there. Then we start actually kind of short time before we have to do it and write. But at the same time, in many cases, we just leave it to the last minute and say, well, it's time, it's not much to write, and it is not much to write. And then we do it actually in a way where we basically lose the opportunity to really, as well, of this excitement of thinking through something, of exploring, of understanding things, of having new ideas, as well about something that we, in inverted commas, know already. Because this is another common reason that we think, well, I know what it is about. And then we come across, and I came across from your essays about certain things I didn't know. Or they at least added something to what I knew. New authors. I thought, it may be interesting to check this, to read about him or read him. Or actually, where you said something in the essays, and I said, well, this is strange. This is not what the position was about. Just go back to the original text. Perhaps you missed the point before, meaning I missed the point before. So use this as well as opportunity to think, to rethink about what you think you know. Controversy with yourself. It's not only the controversy with others, but as well the controversy with yourself, to say, I always thought this and that. But if I go really deeper into this topic, I may get new ideas. If I approach it from another dimension, I may get new ideas. Completely new ideas, or something that adds to my ideas. There was one essay, concrete, where it was in the title of the overall item of the topic. It kind of defined the area in a specific way. If you remember, Warburg University Ltd. This means something. The Ltd means actually taking the university out of the educational system as such and talking about a business, because Ltd is company limited by law, which is a business organization. Now you have very complicated discussions there. I didn't know for a long time, most of the English universities are actually charities, which I never understood. Well, in a way, I understand why, but so this gives you some idea. Why is it about LTD? It's not about Warwick University. And what followed was actually a presentation, pretty clear, kind of well written, about Warwick University today and what they do and how they perform. Not some conflicts have been mentioned, but not engaging with this. And actually kind of ignoring them. I thought, this is strange. You mentioned there had been conflicts. In Warwick it was a major conflict, documented. And you have in the title this right about LTD, right about commercialization and implicitly it was in the essay. So I said, okay, he didn't or she didn't really engage in what it was about. This is what you would do if you really think about the title. But actually it makes sense. What happened as historic case in Warwick, making it as an enterprise, happens today with other means. So I thought, okay, fine. It's a borderline case between failing and saying, well, it adds a new perspective to it. And in this case, at least, I would try to be generous and say, yeah, fine. There's something you missed and something you added. You can't have it all. Not as student and not as lecturer. And this is about moving towards coming to the question of topics, really. In a way, you can say up to now it was only in a limited way talking about the topic as such, about economics. It was more about the presentation and the way of thinking, methodology, exploring things. Knowledge is about knowledge and not about information. Information you get on the internet, on the phone. Knowledge you won't. Knowledge is more. I told you I watch all these rubbish films occasionally because I have too much time here. I don't know actually why I did. But I watched yesterday night 2 films on robots. The one was titled Robo Sapiens, coming from Homo sapiens, the human being, and the Robo Sapiens, and showing some ugly things. Apparently Japan is good in this, on robots, the development of robots. And the other was a photographer who traveled to different countries and making photos of robots, different kinds of robots, where sometimes the first impression looking at this thing was, this is not a robot, this is a person. Speaking with a kind of natural voice, and really it was this machine speaking. There was one thing, there was actually somebody speaking as well, but videoing the thing and engaging and speaking by a microphone to this robot, and you got the impression it is the robot speaking. But it is something where what I thought was really amazing was not so much these advanced, so-called advanced robots. That's been a little bit puzzling. Kind of what is the trick behind it? What I thought the more amazing thing was looking at basic robots where we think it's quite easy, quite simple to do this. To get a robot walking. I was amazed, I was surprised how difficult it is to walk. How many muscles and nerves and bones and whatsoever is moving there, and how it is coordinated. You would think, okay, fine, two legs, a body. Actually, you don't need a head for a robot, you need, but you can easily make this thing walking. If you see how often this thing fell and how many years it took to get this thing kind of walking, though it was still looking a little bit ugly, kind of walking, it took them years to get this basic mechanism in place. Because there is so much, and you cannot get it simply by information. There is so much going into it of balancing. Of course, it is about information, but it is the combination of information. And this is something you have to do. And this is something where, depending on how much time you spend, it is pretty easy for somebody who reads your essay to say, well researched, you don't have a clue what you are talking about. It's just information, putting information together. It's not knowledge. And you are here, and you will be, if you will be in higher positions later in the job, to know things, not just to gather information. Gathering information is only a small part of it. So the formal presentation today, including how to submit essays, the way of thinking more and being concise in thinking, now at least a little bit still engaging in some of the topics in some part of the substance. It was somewhat strange, I found, that most of the essays had been written in this area of international trade. Not strange in the terms of, I don't know why you do this. This is just strange. It was just a surprise that there is a kind of consensus. This is the most interesting topic of these, I think, 7 I suggested. Most of you are interested in that area. I don't know why. It may be that it is highly on the agenda now. Maybe that it was the easiest way. You think it's the easiest area where to find information. It may be simply that, okay, if others do it, I'll do the same, this peer effect. But actually nobody really engaged in the controversy there. Even if you engaged in theoretical issues, it was mostly looking at it in a positive way and only in a positive way. Mentioning side effects, possibly negative side effects, but the basic thing was positive. I don't want to question this. Still, it is something remarkable. And it is something remarkable, especially because there is a huge controversy about the meaning, the qualitative meaning. How far can we go with it? Even now, what I would say is an internal discussion of pro-international trade positions is there's always a tension. We talked about it briefly in economics. There's always a tension that you create dependencies somewhere. Export means somebody depends on you and it means as well if the somebody is not able to pay, you are sitting in a mess. It is a question where economists think about it. Yes, of course, international trade. We cannot have national economies anymore. We should not have international economies. There is so much enriching going hand in hand with it. But we have to look as well at the tension between creating dependencies on either side and actually increasing our independency. Something that had not been really issued, but something that is important, as I said, when it comes to this topic. Then, of course, the issue is here really, when we are talking about it, what is our understanding of it in terms of a theoretical exploration? Due to, in this economy, goods prices are determined by the theory of supply and demand freely rather than being interfered by a government or another external or other external factors. Again, the role of theory. If we think about international trade, in theory, we can and should have positions, but these positions are or play a kind of marginal role. We'll continue there then after the break.